So before she could back, there's something in right now.
This is the assessment price. So she thought, well, it must be over. Hi, Al.
Okay.
So the planning board wasn't the best. And they had this, they had a negative recommendation. But her son now lives in the apartment. Her son was, they got it, no, it actually wasn't her son.
That's why.
Her sister's kid. Her sister lives in
She's random. Yeah, let's go.
Well, good evening, and I'd like to call the Village of Webster Board meeting May 9th, 2019 to order. If you would stand with me, please, for the pledge. Jerry, would you lead?
Sure.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. This evening, we are beginning with some presentations. The first is by Comp Alliance, Workers' Compensation. The second will be Bond Benefits Consulting. And the third will be the Historic Preservation Commission update. So I would like to start this off with a Comp Alliance Workers' Compensation report. And Christina?
I'll introduce Mr. Rose, please, if you would.
Mr. Rose, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and present to you the Comp Alliance program, give you a little history, background on the program, to the village, and how we may be able to help you with your workers' compensation. So the Comp Alliance is a municipal group workers' compensation program that was started in the mid-90s by the Association of Towns. And at that time, municipalities were having a hard time budgeting for their workers' compensation costs. Rates were increasing, and then at year end, they were often having an audit done and finding that they owed additional funds, and it was very difficult to budget for them. So one thing that our program put in place when it was first started and still does today is we do not perform a year-end premium payroll audit. So the municipality knows going into the year what your contribution amount is going to be. Makes it much more easy for your budget process. Fast forward to 5 years ago, NICOM joined the program as a main sponsor. So today, Association of Towns and NICOM both oversee the program. They have representation on the board of the Comp Alliance. and are instrumental in the decision process of the program. We are currently up to 280 municipalities throughout the state, towns, villages, cities, county, all the way through. One of the main focuses of our program ever since it started in the mid-90s, again, was to help municipalities with their budgeting. So stability is an instrumental part of our program. In the past 5 years, we've averaged flat rate changes to our municipal members, and in 2019, a 2.4% average rate reduction to the program as a whole. Being that it's a program sponsored by NICOM and AOT, we strive to bring our members the best possible services in relation to their workers' compensation program. The village would be provided with a risk manager who could provide employee training, to help you reduce your workplace incidents, workplace losses. We can provide, the Department of Labor mandates all municipal employees to participate in workplace violence, bloodborne pathogen harassment training on an annual basis, and we can provide that to the village, both through the risk manager, either on site, but we also have an online resource center that would be available to all employees to take care of those mandated trainings, but also we have about 30 additional trainings available through that website, again, to help you reduce your workers' comp exposure and losses. Our risk manager, if you do not currently have a safety committee, would be happy to help you get one started, as we find that's a main driving force within our municipalities to help reduce their claims. If you already have one, she would be happy to participate in that as well. From a claims perspective, we have a very personal claims service team. Should the village choose to join the Comp Alliance, we would provide an orientation. Our claim manager, risk manager would sit down and go right through all the services we provide, walk you right through our claims process, provide you with all the contact information, necessary forms to file, that kind of thing. You would have access to our claims manager, who is available to answer any questions you may have related to claims, or possibly do a claim review based on your requests as well. If you look in the, again, the very back right side of the packet I provided has a nice frequently asked questions related to the program. I'm not going to go step by step through that, but I just wanted to include that in the package. Should you have additional questions, feel free to read through that. It gets into some nice detail on what it means to be part of a group self-insured program, how your funding's calculated and that kind of thing. But if you turn to the quote that's within the package, just to kind of run through the details of this. With our program, we pull your payrolls. Being that we don't do a year-end premium payroll audit, we pull the payrolls from the prior year's adopted budget. So these payrolls come from the 18 to 19 adopted. So every year we're kind of like a year behind, but it gives us the availability to give you an indication earlier on in the process of what you're going to be looking at for renewal, so that you can budget for it in time for your budget. So these numbers are from that. An actuary determines a rate for each class code, and then based on your experience mod calculation would determine your overall funding contribution. And we calculated a 0.89 experience mod for the village, which is a really good experience modification. That means these rates, right off the get-go, you would be getting an 11% credit for that, for having the 0.89, because a 1 being average. So anything above that, a municipality would pay, additional debit on their workers' comp, where you're on the other side of the spectrum because of your loss history. Now with our program, should you choose to join the Comp Alliance, we utilize that same experience mod for the first 3 years in our program, and then after that point, we would recalculate it based on your first 3 years in your early years. So the total contribution for the year is proposed at $29,005. Again, that's non-audited, so that is the contribution you would pay for the year. The $2,153 is what we estimate your New York State assessment portion to be. That funds the Workers' Compensation Board. All municipalities are required to pay that, and it's actually based on your actual payroll. So we estimate that up front. would bill for it up front at the beginning of the year. And then quarterly, you would submit your payrolls to tell us how much to pay the work comp board on your behalf. And at the end of the year, we'd reconcile it going forward. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and discuss the program. I'm available. You have my business card. I'm certainly available to discuss, answer any questions. Yeah, Chris?
We have been paying to the New York State Insurance Fund, actually not to them, but to Gladfelter, our broker, a fee of about averaging $8,000 a year over the past 5 years. Now, I believe you answered this question, but I wanted to make sure that the board knew that will not be a fee that we would need to pay you.
Correct, that is, yeah, you would not. Many of our municipalities choose to use an insurance broker for their workers' compensation, but about 10% of the municipalities in our program choose to go direct. This quote is a direct quote. Should you choose to include an insurance broker, that fee to them is 6%. Yep,
So right now, I send it to them, I would be sending it to you instead, any claims,
correct.
directly to
Yeah.
you, okay.
And the program, I forgot to mention, is again, sponsored with fiscal oversight by AOT and NICOM. Right Risk Management is the third-party administrator who handles the risk management, the claims management, marketing, so we're Right Risk Management employees. They're the TPA hired by the Comp Alliance group to administer the program.
So we don't pay extra for that
No.
risk management
No.
team.
No, and there are no entry fees, no exit requirements. And important to note is that your funding calculated is what an actuary determines to fully fund the lifetime of all claims. And there's an $18 million surplus position right now with the program, which is a calculation that should the lifetime of all claims, in other words, if the program, just say was to shut its doors today, after the lifetime of all claims were paid for, an actuary's calculated that there would be $18 million left over that would be essentially returned to the membership because it's a member-owned program.
So if I had questions about claims, I mean, as if I would be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, because it does get tricky and the forms change and.
Yeah. And part of that orientation process, our claim manager would be involved in that. It's a nice detailed booklet that we would give you on all the step-by-steps for the claims, who to contact. You would actually have your own specific claims examiner. In other words, you don't, for one claim, get one examiner, and if you have 3 more claims, have all 3 different people, you get to, I mean, hopefully you don't get to know your claim examiner.
Yeah.
But
That sounds great, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
You said the New York State assessment,
Yeah.
you said that pays the workers' comp board, and then its assessment, I believe, isn't it calculated as 12.6% of the premium?
With group self-insurance with our program, it is based on actual payroll, so it's a percentage of payroll instead of a percentage of premium. It used to be, up until 2014, it was with group self-insurance, it was a part of premium. And actually, we used to make the payment on behalf of the entire group, but starting in 2014, they required all groups to break it out and base it on actual payroll. Any other questions?
Sounds great.
And just to give you an idea of the size of the program, I know I mentioned the 280 members, it's right around $47 million in annual funded contribution. So we have municipalities ranging in size from very small villages, maybe all the way down to 1,000 in annual contribution, all the way up to several municipalities over $1 million in annual contribution. So it's a widespread. But again, I urge you to keep in mind the benefits of our program, the NICOM and AOT sponsorship. They're instrumental in the decision-making of the program, the stability of the program, the no audit. Again, we're here to help with the services, very hands-on risk management service. And actually, I forgot to mention, we are having a safety training at the town of Penfield on June 19th and 20th. And any village employees who would like to attend to see what our safety and loss training is all about, I can send Chris some more information in the agenda on that.
So is there actually a contract that gets signed? And
There is.
what are the terms?
In order to join, we have a participation agreement that would be signed, but then we have a plan document that the board would have to adopt a resolution And then just a letter of intent indicating that you wish to join our program.
And what are the terms usually for your contract? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, longer?
No, just, it's a one-year term. It is a possibility in the future if you are interested. We did just start last year providing some 2-year options. So if that would be something that would benefit you as far as budgeting, we'd be certainly happy to look at that in the future as well.
Okay.
But I can get Chris the documents in that. One other thing too, Chris, just to keep in mind if you are considering the changes, and I don't know if you've already done it or not, but the state insurance fund would require a 30-day reservation of rights.
Already been said.
Okay. All right, but I can certainly, like I said, let you know the documentation that will be not needed to join.
We'll be in touch, I'm sure. Thank
Okay.
you so much
Thank
for
you
your
so much. I
presentation.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Thanks for the pen.
What do you mean?
Uh-oh.
Well,
Somebody's.
yours fell off.
You get me starburst instead.
You do like your candy.
See how they treat the old guys around here? You got 2 of them?
He's got 3 of them.
We took Gail's.
They all walk around, I told them.
Okay, next we have a presentation by Bond Benefits Consulting.
Hi,
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's fine, that's fine. No problem.
Thank you.
You can skip it.
We can share.
Thank you.
So good evening. My name is Mark Shannon, and I'm from Bond Benefits Consulting. We're an employee benefits consultant in Pittsburgh, right on Monroe Avenue, and a family-run company, been around since 1992. And we focus on health insurance and employee benefits, and helping our clients not only save as much money as possible, but getting the most bang for their buck for the benefits that they offer through their organization. One of our specialties is assisting municipalities and villages and towns. And we met with Heather and Chris last week,
Yeah.
right? The week's kind of.
I know.
But, and we talked about ways that we can help the village not only with their budgeting, with your existing health insurance policies that are being offered, and also with the Medicare policies that are being offered, in ways that we can help save money when it comes to that without decreasing the benefits, but also provide a stronger service on the end of the employees. Whenever you have a claims or billing issue, or you lose your ID card, we're there to be your resource instead of having to deal directly with the insurance carriers. You know, we really focus on cutting costs, providing, looking at benefits as a way that it's a positive experience instead of a chore, and keeping that open dialogue with your employees to provide them with solutions for, not only for group health insurance options, but also options through the individual market, through state programs like Child Health Plus, and then also through direct Medicare Advantage plans.
I did want to ask you, I think a couple of the board members were concerned, is there a time frame that we need to give paychecks if the board decides to move forward?
No, so you can change your broker at any time,
Okay.
and it's very easy to do. It's just that broker or record letter that you just have to sign.
Yep.
And then when you send it over to us, we start working for you right away. If there's any questions, it's kind of cut and dry.
We were really excited about when we had a meeting with them. We just felt so much better, and so we're really excited. So hopefully.
In our offices, we have 35 employees. We just focus on benefits, and, a difference between Bond and some other brokers is, who you're dealing with at Bond. I've been there for now 6 years, and we have, over half of our employees have been in the industry for over 20 years, so when you talk with us that we're going to give you the correct answer, and if we don't know the answer, we're going to say, we'll get right back to you and figure it out before we just give you any old answer.
And he worked at Paychecks.
So I know the difference firsthand. There's a reason I'm at Bond.
Just to remind everybody, this is Facebook Live.
What is the cost of your program?
Great question. So there is no cost to you. The way that health insurance and benefits works is that there's a socialized commission included in the premium that you pay on a monthly basis to the insurance carrier. So right now, 4% of your premium goes directly, or goes to your insurance broker, and that would be the same way it would be set up with us as your broker. There's just a difference in the service, obviously, so I kind of say, do you want to drive, I drive a Honda, or do you want to drive a Mercedes for the same cost? And if I could choose a Mercedes, I would choose it over the Honda, but, so we're kind of a Mercedes.
And I liked the bit too, that you have some free seminars.
Yes.
And I think that's good, because then we can go to them.
And I already signed up for one in June, I signed up
Yes,
today.
The one
I saw
for
your
June.
name on there.
Yep.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and whoever would like to come is welcome to come. It's June 4th, Tuesday morning at Monroe Golf Club.
Yep.
And, yeah, we really like to stay in front of healthcare reform, and because there's obviously changes that go on every single year. 2 years ago, when paid family leave came into play, we had 500 people come. We had to have 2 different seminars, and last year we talked about sexual harassment training that's going to be mandatory to have done by October for this year. So we like to be in front of it, because obviously nowadays you can feel like the sky is falling depending on what you listen to. So we like to make sure we get the correct information up front.
And if you guys decide to move forward, we've already scheduled a time for him to come in and just talk with the guys and do like a lunch and learn and go over everything that's available to them, even like gym membership benefits, a lot of things that they probably don't know, so.
Is there cost savings associated with this?
Yes, they've told us that they would be happy to work with our retirees and offer them information about other plans that are actually same coverage but cheaper, and the village would cover those instead. So it would save the village money.
Yeah. So the savings, the example that Heather was talking about there is with your existing setup with the group Medicare Advantage plan. The group plans can cost anywhere from $200 to $400 on top of the Part B premium that you'd be paying for Medicare. So for Medicare, you have to sign up for A and B, and then a Medicare Advantage plan on top of it. There's no way getting around the B premium, but there's direct Medicare Advantage plans available through the insurance carriers in our area that there's 0 premium plans that have very similar benefits to the $400 plan.
So at this time, we might know what the actual savings
No,
is.
not yet.
But based on what we've seen, there will be significant savings.
Significant, I like that word.
Well, and we
Use your
had,
imagination of what is significant.
we already had someone leave that we're currently paying for, and they left and found a cheaper plan, and we're paying for that, so.
Yeah.
Very good.
Same health plans are available, same
Yes.
companies?
So since you have less than 100 full-time equivalent employees that are eligible for benefits, the same plans are available to you through paychecks or through Bond. It's just about how they're going to be explained to your employees, the material that we provide to your employees throughout open enrollment, and also new hires and throughout the year, lunch and learns like we're going to have.
And letting us know when open enrollment is, and saying,
Yeah, that's kind of nice to do.
yes, very good. And new plans that are, that are coming, and so
Yeah.
giving us enough time to learn about them before they roll out, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you much.
Have a good
Thanks so
night.
much, Mark.
Mr. Elder, please step up.
The lights are on. Well, normally I introduce myself, but in this case I'm coming here as the chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. The Historic Preservation Commission is always busy. We have a monthly meeting. And I want to talk about 3 items in particular tonight, but I just want to briefly let you know, as it said update, that we are working on other things as well. For instance, we've been looking at the idea of looking at historic street signs for some streets in the village. Of course, every month we do a site of the month. And this month we're hoping to do Spry. We're just arranging the time right now, but look for that soon. Spry is a very old building, so it deserves to be recognized. We've worked with Jake on and Judy has been very helpful with this, on the Pioneer Rob Cemetery. We've also taken on the role of taking photos of various homes on the streets, try to get a good inventory, because many of you might not realize this, but even though you might live on Judson Street or Champion or London, many of those houses are over 50 years old now, and they qualify for historic status. I know they don't look like it, I know you don't think about it that way, but in fact, it's the way the criteria runs. So we want to make sure that we've got some of these cataloged, because 50 years hence, they'll be looking back and asking us why we didn't do it. So we've been very busy with those things. But the 3 projects that have taken up a lot of our time, the one I'd like to talk about with you tonight. The first one is the kiosk on North Avenue, which I did come in and speak with you guys about a few months ago. I want to thank Don for drafting an agreement. I hope all of you were able to get it through the email. If you weren't, I brought copies, would be helpful. Do you have the copies? Okay. I only have 5. I apologize. I didn't know if you could, so the board, I only have enough for the board members, but Don's probably got one. And I can briefly go through the description of what's going on with this. So thumbnail sketched, you already heard the rest of this. The kiosk was put in without us not knowing much about it going in at the time. However, it's there now. We would like to make sure that the village has a controlling interest in it, which means that we would ask that the transfer from the Friends of Webster Trails to the village. Keep in mind that there was no authorization, and it's technically to put it there in the first place, so someone needs to own it. Historic Preservation, though, is very willing to take the lead on making sure it's okay, checking on it, keeping it updated with stock with flyers and brochures, working to make sure the pictures on it are in good condition, making sure the photos change periodically, probably every few years. But we're very much in the mode of wanting to take care of this. And why? Because this kiosk is in a very historic location. As it turns out, a lot of people look at Main Street and say, that's the historic location. In fact, Main Street is historic. But remember, Main Street was the commercial area. North Avenue was where all the money was made, right? I mean, that's where all the trains came in and all the supplies came off. That was the industry heart of the industrial heart of the village. And so we want to have photos on that kiosk indicating not only the trail system, which is there now, but also the history that shows the industrial past of the village in that area. So that's one of the reasons we're keenly interested in taking responsibility for it. And also, if you read the contract, we would make sure that the Friends of Webster Trails have information there in the kiosk, including their trail maps, so people know where they are when they get to the village. We also want to make sure the kiosk is clearly marked Village of Webster, so people know that they're here. So, because it is a wayfinding kiosk as well. So we would like to take this surprise structure and make it into a jewel, if we possibly can. And what we're asking for the village board to do is to give us your approval to take ownership of it. So that's my first pitch to you tonight. Any questions about that? And I've also talked to Jake a lot about it. So he's not been left out, because if there's a repair, it's going to be DPW doing the repairs, like roofs or whatever happens to happen, right, Jake? Yeah.
Yeah, the sign we'd have to get, it depends on the
Size, material.
Right,
Lit, not lit.
We talked about doing diamond material. They call it, that's a little more durable than, it presents itself a little better than a box with plexiglass doors that are gonna, get scraped and fade and, fogged up and not be very nice in a short time, so, it's all gonna be, based on design
Yeah.
of what you guys.
And we have photos, and I tried to send them, I don't know, did you all get the email that Heather sent you? Okay, so one of the files at the end of that was the One of the files at the end of that was I think 4 possible photos we're looking at from that area. We have photos of railroad people down there working near the railroad. We also had a photo of an aerial view of it, which is really good. And one of the photos I couldn't send you, but I talked to Lynn Barton about it, we really want to consider is a new photo that was given to the museum probably, I don't know, 3 months ago. That is just an outstanding photo of the west side of that area. The perspective is, I think, to the east, but it's a really nice photo that shows the area probably around 1920, something like that. So it's a possibility. Unfortunately, when it was given to her, the photo has adhesed itself to the glass. So there's no way to separate it from the glass that we're well aware of at this point. We're looking into that. If nothing else, we'll just take a picture of the picture. So that's the way it's maybe go. But it's a great photo. So we have a lot of possibilities for what we might put down there. The only thing that I think this does really is say we're taking ownership of it, and then we allow the Friends of Webster Trails to know that they'll have a presence in the kiosk to let them know that this is part of a larger trail system. So, okay?
The village then will have a trail map. We'll
Yes.
agree to a trail map that's there, and
Absolutely.
a sign that identifies the kiosk is located within the village of Webster.
Yes. We're gonna take care of that as fast as we can to make sure people know where the wayfinding is. So I also want to point out, just in case you've not been down there, and I would encourage you to go, is that there's a parking lot down there, a trailhead. So it's got the possibility of sort of being a nice synergy between people getting down to that trailhead and using that trailhead to access the trail in the village, which is a little different in the town because our trail is paved, or would you call it, it's milled, is what they can say. It's milled. And so, but in the town, largely, it's sort of a packed sort of dirt type of trail. So it's a little different when you come into the village, so.
The depot was there originally, was taken down, and now, in almost the exact footprint,
Yeah.
is a garage,
Yeah.
it's shelter. Will you mention something like that in the kiosk?
I think we'd like to
And
add.
show a picture of the former
Yeah, we've had.
baggage depot?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about seeing if there's a photo that we can use to highlight at least show where the depot was. Lynn Barton, one way of doing that, Carl, might be to put there's a 1900, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 map of sorry, Lynn, if I have to write the date, of the area, and actually the depot is actually shown on that map. So one way to possibly let people know what it looked like is simply to show what it looked like on that map down there, because it does look radically different, and this gives people a sense of the structures, the roads, and everything else, and that map is very detailed for the time, so.
Thank you.
So, I don't know, is it possible we might request that you put this on one of your agendas in the future? So,
Yep.
Sure.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item we have is, we've been working a little bit on what's called a certified local government. Now, certified local government is short for CLG for short, is through the State Division for Historic Preservation. So if I keep saying SHPO, that's what it's short for. So this program is basically built around the idea that the SHPO people, the agency and the state has grants that are made available to municipalities who are in the Certified Local Government Program. How do you qualify for the program? Well, basically you have to meet these specific criteria to be considered for the program. Now, about 15 years ago, the board looked at this. At that time, they probably didn't qualify because they didn't have any local landmarks. However, since that time, we do have local landmarks, and you can see in the application I put together which ones they are. We actually have 4 local landmarks now: the Robb Cemetery, the Edna Struck Memorial, the Hitching Stone on Corning Park, and the Jane and Mason Bank Building on East Main Street. That would tend to support the idea that we meet the criteria for the CLG. So, as I said, the big thing about the CLG is that it does allow us to have better access, probably just access, to state grants for historic preservation. And that in itself might be a good enough reason to do it. It is not a small packet. I only gave you guys the first 5 pages. There's actually 45 pages that I'm proposing to submit to them. So the I tried to, you should have the first 5 pages, we should have been emailed to you. They basically go through what's in the packet, the application, what's the history of Webster, links in the historic in the town, current members of the board and their qualifications, and then talks about the activities of historic preservation, local landmarks, and landmarks in the village that are on the state and federal registry. So, in order for this application to be submitted, it has to be signed by the chief officer of the municipality. That's you, Daryl. So we would like to request that you allow Daryl to sign this so that the mayor can sign and then pass it along, and we can apply to the state parks for our designation. This is free, there's no fee involved, which is kind of nice. And the other thing they do for you is if you don't qualify, they'll tell you why. So, and I think of all the possible things I could ask you about, that would be the one I'd like to ask you most, because if we don't qualify, it might be nice to know why we can't. And see if we can correct that. If we can't, we can't, but if we can, why not try? Again, all we're asking for here is the ability to apply for grants in the future for historic structures and areas in the village. So, that's, are there any questions? This one took a little while to put together. We've been talking about it for a while, but
Why do we find it so difficult?
I think the reason it was found difficult originally, Carl, was because we didn't have local landmarks for a long time. So one of the qualifications in here is very specific. It says that you have to be able to have jurisdiction over either structures or districts. And we had neither. And we don't have a district now, we probably never will, and I'm not sure anybody really wants to, but we do have structures. So that does place Historic Preservation Commission in a like situation of many other historic preservation commissions because of that.
Yeah.
So, Jake?
Sorry, is that the matter of jurisdiction, is that why other structures that are on the state or federal register aren't considered local landmarks
That's correct.
because you don't have jurisdiction?
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, a local landmark comes under section, I got it right here, Article 16 of Historic Preservation in the Village of Webster Code, and that's where we talk about local landmarks and what actually the Historic Preservation Commission does with regards to those. But everything else, the state and federal registry is just a recognition, is a better way to think about it, from the state and federal government about the structures themselves. And we do have a number of those, but
So could you make those also local landmarks?
they would have to apply. They would have to apply. And some of them have thought about it, many of them have thought they wouldn't want to, because the one thing about a local landmark status, which sometimes puts people off, is that you have a board that intervenes between your making changes to the exterior of the structure and the structure being changed. So for instance, the Webster Baptist Church is on the state and federal registry. It's not a local landmark. So not that I ever would favor, and I would certainly vote against on our council, against getting rid of those cobblestones, but they certainly could because of that. So I'm telling you, like I said, I'm chair of the council, so I'm not going to support that effort. So anyway, anyways, do you have any questions about the CLG program?
I think that's wonderful.
So again, if I could ask if you would be willing to put this on the agenda, maybe for the next meeting or something, and then maybe you could give the mayor authorization to sign. We'll get this off, get it put to bed, and see what they say. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, it's taken a while.
We really, really want to concentrate on trying to find other sources of funds for the village to offset the village budget, and make it so that we can actually take care of the buildings and other areas. What comes to mind is the Harmony House, for instance, but there's a lot of other ones. Old Church Mall is a good example. So,
Yeah.
all right, so the final thing we wanted to talk to you about, I'm sorry it takes so long, but is, actually, I did bring the first 5, I didn't realize this, I did bring copies of the first 5 pages of the application, which is the major part of it. The other stuff's just supporting documentation. So the last thing I want to talk to you about, if I could, is our local landmark, the Edna Struck Memorial Park. So I want to thank Jake, because I came into the office this week on Monday, and he gave me lots of interesting information about how to go with the bids on this, which I should have known before, but I guess I didn't. And so we now have our 3 bids. I looked at, went online, time, looked at Lowe's, and priced out all of the plants one by one, and got a cost on all of them. I do have bids from 2 other sources. The one I gave you guys in your packet was the initial description we got from Bill Vendel from Welch's Greenhouses, which we kind of used as the model for what we might look for, although not necessarily what it would be in the end. You guys have any, can you recollect some of our discussions on this? Because I didn't bring copies of this one, because I thought it was kind of difficult, because there were some graphics in there. But this is this is roughly the picture of, can everybody see that kind of? So you have an island here. There were currently 3 trees, and then there was plantings around a stone that has a plaque on it that is devoted to, that sort of honors Edna Straw. Trees are gone because somebody decided they were going to, how do you phrase it, Jake? Dukes of Hazzard?
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard, that's it,
Yes.
yeah. Unfortunately, they're not as good as the Dukes of Hazzard because they actually hit the target, but anyway, so the,
Yeah, they did.
but anyway, so there's no more trees. So we're looking at how would we want to replace this? And we'd like input, and that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight, to try to get your input and see what you think. We have the options in terms of putting 2 trees up, no trees up, that would probably be bad, 1 tree up. Obviously, Bill Vendel talked about plantings. This is really hard to see, but he talked about plantings on each end.
Yeah.
And at that time, obviously, there were trees. We want to try to get the plantings down near the rock just a little bit so that it doesn't get overgrown in the summer. And then maybe add some other plantings around it. So I'm not sure what the insurance money is, but Jake was giving me the impression that it would pay for the trees. So we still have to use HPC's budget to do the plantings.
Flowering trees.
Flowering trees. Now, I know some of you don't like flowering trees.
Flowering.
Yeah, I know some of you don't like flowering trees, and we are going to consider everybody's comments on that. We don't want to necessarily go with one or the other. I do want to point out that the crabapple is Webster's tree, but that doesn't, but we also
Yes, it
looked,
is.
but Jake also brought up a really nice looking tree at the, when I saw him on Monday, called the Japanese ivory, or I'm sorry, it's a lilac tree called the Japanese ivory silk, which looks very nice. So,
Sounds
yeah. It doesn't, it's sort of like almost a happy medium between the two, because it sort of flowers, but it's not a flowering tree like a crabapple. So, but it's a beautiful looking plant when the blooms come out. So, that's a possibility. We're not wedded to the idea of having a crabapple, but we do want to put trees back, and we do want to get some plantings in there. So, now, because this is a local landmark, obviously the Historic Preservation is going to deal with it, but we really want your input. So if you guys want to email me or any member of the board and let them know what you think is a good idea in there, we'd really appreciate it. We would like to get going on this project this summer and start working at getting it done so it's pretty good shape by next summer. But it's a good project. We can make it better than it was, which is nice.
Jake, weren't you gonna get some experimental trees or something like that?
Oh, we got those and we planted, those were oaks and
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
they're
big.
going to median
It's not.
really well, so we planted those, some in Wilmerite Park, some in Shands Park, and then one on Maryville, at the end of Maryville. So we had them, one in the kind of a wetter area, one in the drier area, and one along the road, so we get, good information for them,
Oh,
as far as growing in different conditions.
Yeah,
okay,
we
thank
kind of
you.
have to have little trees in this island. We can't have great big.
Right, you wouldn't want towering trees,
No,
would you?
no,
But the
Flowering trees?
Flowering.
yes, they are.
I'm okay with flowering, yeah,
But
unanimous,
Not towering.
flowering. Are you against flowering?
No, he doesn't.
They're normally smaller.
Well, we're gonna, we want to make it look nice, so we want to consider, again, everybody's comments on how the trees can fit in. I don't know if there's ever been any thought about having multiple trees, and possibilities of that, but maybe making that look. We have to look, we do have 2 people that we can work with. One is, assuming that we award the contract to him, was Bill Vendel.
Yeah.
And the other person that stepped forward is Michael Pickey,
Yeah.
who a lot of people in the audience probably know.
Yeah.
And he's our local beekeeper. He's also extraordinarily good at looking at arbor, sort of like an arborist who can look at trees and figure out what's going on with them. So he's also very good at, we've kind of consulted him, and Lynn's talked to him several times about the island and what we can do in there. So,
Great.
Yeah.
but don't be shy. If you have an opinion, we want to know. Okay? All right, any questions about any of that?
What did you call that again, a Japanese what?
It was called a Japanese ivory silk.
The Japanese lilac tree,
Oh.
lilac bush, and there's pictures up on the screen right now.
Oh, there they go, thank you, Jake.
Oh, look at that.
They're very nice.
Ooh, Daryl, that's a very beautiful tree.
But it's not
You
really,
didn't even turn around, look at it.
well, you may not, it might
Don't
not,
ask for it.
I know that qualifies as a flowering tree though, because it's technically a kind of a lilac, so, you know.
What's the longevity of it?
I don't know, Jake, what did you find?
You just look it up.
These were recommended trees based on the planting location and the setting that they're in, as one that would be hardy enough and good size-wise and the exposure to the salt and things like that, because it's next to the island. Assuming they'll live as long as they're taken care of and they don't outgrow their surroundings.
I do want you to notice on part of the description of the improvements, when Bill went down there, he did find that the soil is deficient. So one of the things we're gonna need to do is dig out at least some portion of the soil and put new soil in, because perhaps one of the reasons why the crab apples weren't doing as well is because the soil was deficient. And, you know, what you have there, as Jake indicated, you know, there's all kinds of salt being kicked up on there in the wintertime, and it's a difficult place for vegetation to grow, so it's kind of amazing that it does, but we're gonna have to help it along, so.
Very good, my dear.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks. Excited about it.
Yes.
Next, we have a proclamation.
Public comment.
Say public comment.
Yeah, you gotta read it.
We have a proclamation.
First.
I do,
Okay.
which is in honor of the Historic Preservation Month. So at this time, I'd like to read this proclamation. The Village of Webster proclaims, whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character, while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and renewal, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping us to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas this place matters, quote unquote, is the theme for National Preservation Month 2019, co-sponsored by the Webster Museum and Historical Society in Webster, New York, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Daryl Byards, Mayor of the Village of Webster, do proclaim May 2019 as National Historic Preservation Month, and call upon the people of Webster, New York to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. So, let that be noted for the month of May, and we will honor that throughout the month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we move to public forum. Anyone who would like to address the board this evening?
Missy.
Hey,
Hi, Missy.
hi, my name's Missy Rosenberry. I live at 16 Fuller Avenue.
Yes, I know.
I'm here to talk today about the bike racks that the village is planning to install this summer. First, I want to say thank you for finding the money to invest in these racks. I think they're going to look spiffy, and I think they're going to make an already welcoming village much more so. So, having decided to do this, to install the racks, now we got to figure out where they're going to go. And I understand that we have 4 racks that we're going to be installing, 2 different designs. And that you are open to getting some comments from the community about where they might go to help you guide your decision. So yesterday I did post something on my blog, pictures of the 2 different designs, and I also proposed 9 different locations throughout the village that they might go. And I created a survey, which is now available online. We've had 23 responses already.
Wow.
And I'm hoping to get many more. And I'm going to leave it up for a couple of weeks because I know this is not going to happen until the summer. So what I am doing tonight is I'm going to encourage anybody who might be watching to hop onto my blog, read more about the bike racks, see what they look like, and click through to the survey. Because it's only going to take a few minutes, and the more people that we get commenting on this, the better. You'll have a better idea of where you think people would like to put these. Obviously, there's going to be concerns which you have to consider, like where the planters are going to go, or where they can go, where they can be easily removed in the winter. But this will at least, hopefully we'll have, maybe even, I'd love to have 100 people comment, so we can give you some guidance on where they think these bike racks might go. So you can find that on my Webster on the Web blog, which you can even Google Webster on the web, and that should be the first thing that comes up. Okay? Any questions from you folks?
Oh, thanks for doing that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Welcome to the village.
Thank you.
Oh, please, I know. I want a glass of wine on your porch.
Count on it. Count on it.
Anyone else this evening? No, then at this time I will close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will move on to village business. First order of business is the resolution to approve minutes. You have village board meeting April 25th, 2019. The minutes of that meeting were fairly extensive. They included code enforcement presentation, a number of other things here with public works and so on. Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a resolution to approve the claims and warrants. If you would take a look at these, I had the opportunity to look them over this period, and I did not find anything that was out of the ordinary that I had a question on. I don't know, did you?
I didn't either. There were less, there weren't very many, and there weren't any questions, there weren't any questions.
I had one, but she addressed it for me, so.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no question or questions from the board, I would ask that you approve the abstract vouchers.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a resolution to authorize the village clerk to sign a new broker agreement appointing Bond Benefits Consulting LLC, replacing Paychecks, as our official broker for medical benefits. We had the opportunity to listen to the presentation. We also have information. I've had that previously, and I have no significant problems with it. I would read, however, the letter here regarding the broker letter of record with the Village of Webster. And to whom it concerns, this is to notify you that the company has appointed Bonds Benefits Consulting LLC, whose business address is 71A Monroe Avenue, Pittsburgh, New York, 14534, as our sole insurance representative with respect to coverage provided to this organization by Excelis effective May 2nd, 2019. We have authorized Bond Benefits Consulting LLC to act on behalf in place of our former agent. would agree with this, then I would ask for authorization to sign the agreement with Bonds Benefits.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, I have here a resolution to authorize myself or a designee to sign second lease amendment with WXXI. This is the tower, I believe, the parcel of land approximately 100 feet by 60 feet, and the tower that resides at the edge of the bay. And the title to all improvements constructed or installed by the tenant on the leased property shall remain with the tenant. All improvements constructed or installed by the tenant shall at all times be and remain property of the tenant. Terms and conditions in this lease dated August 22nd, 1977, and the first lease amendment dated November 1st, 1998, unless amended by paragraphs 1 through 4 above, shall remain in full force and effect throughout the lease term and any subsequent renewal periods. Section 15 of the lease, which permits the tenant to extend the lease for 2 additional terms of 5 years each, shall remain in full force and shall be constructed to apply to the end of the term as amended in paragraph 1. So I believe that would currently cover 10 years extended, is that correct?
Actually, 15 years.
15. 5 plus the 2 extended 5 years.
Right. Paragraph 1 extends it to December 31, 2023. Then that paragraph 3 provides the 2 additional 5-year terms. So in effect, it's a 15 year.
In consideration for $1. Okay?
No, the dollar, I think, is for the lease, it's still, they give us $100 a year for the lease. The $1 is just, I think, for this amendment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the $100 is in the original lease back in 77.
That continues forward, correct?
Yeah, it continues forward. All the terms of the previous leases still continue unless modified here. And the only thing that's modified is if they ever decide they don't need the microwave tower there, that they gotta take it with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll ask for approval to allow me to sign this agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll sign that again. Next, I have a resolution to set the public hearing regarding proposed wireless communication facilities local law. And this resolution of the Village of Webster Board of Trustees to set a public hearing regarding the adoption of local law number 1 of 2019 that amends and adds certain sections to the zoning code to establish certain general and specific requirements for wireless communications facilities. This is to take place on said proposed local law number 1 of 2019, held on the 13th day of May, June 2019 at 7:15 p.m. at the Community Meeting Hall, 29 South Avenue, Webster, New York. That notice of the time and place of such hearing describing in general terms the proposed local law shall be published once on or before the 3rd of June. We have a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
The only thing I would suggest is in this, to Heather, if any member of the public wants a copy of the proposed local law, make sure you click off track changes. Because, you know, the copy that you included has got all this comments and.
Yeah, make sure.
So click on track, you know, no changes, and so they'll just get a clean copy of the local law itself.
No problem. Okay, trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Certainly a lot of back and forth work went into this, and Don, I appreciate your efforts, I appreciate the efforts of gentlemen down in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Look forward to having this on the books. Next, we have a resolution to hire Michael Parsons and Jack Willard for summer help in the Department of Public Works from May 13th through September 15th at $11.10 per hour. Jake, I believe that one of these young men will not be starting until June, is that correct?
That's correct. Michael Parsons will be available as early as next week, but Jack Willard, there's actually in the,
Another guy, Corey Spooner.
Corey Spooner was the third one.
On the agenda, I apologize.
Oh, it's not an issue?
That was a last minute addition.
They would be available, not the, let's say the 12th of June. I'm trying to see what date that is.
Well, then we'll add it on here.
And two are gonna be planned for Uptown and one at the sewer department.
Both Corey and Jack are June, correct?
Yes.
Be good experience for both of them. And Corey will be at the water
Sewer.
sewer department.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So I have a motion, or a motion to hire both Michael Parsons, Jack Willard for summer help at DPW, and Corey Spooner, summer help at the sewer department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
11:10, we bumped it.
Welcome, Michael and Jack.
And Corey.
And Corey.
Okay, Don, do we have anything this evening?
I do not.
Did you fill the survey out for the bike rack?
I'm going to.
Just checking.
I only realized that Missy had done it yesterday. So.
That's a good idea.
And where do you see it? She knows what she's doing
Yeah,
with
right.
social media stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
So it's very professional looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go on.
We're gonna share it on our Facebook page as well.
Oh, great idea.
Yes.
Where did she move to?
16 Fuller Avenue.
Yeah. It's on the record.
16 Fuller.
16, yeah, the
She's your
second.
daughter's old house?
Southwest from the corner.
Yeah.
She's your daughter's old house?
First
No, no,
house
she's
in
right across the street.
Oh, oh, next to Pam?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's the first house on Fuller Avenue, north side.
Okay, And
Husband's name is Kevin.
we will move now to DPW. Jake, do you have anything for us this evening? I'm sure you do.
Got a few things, going on. Just the sidewalk project on Lapland and Elm is complete. They did a really nice job.
They did.
In there,
They did.
in between the raindrops, and still got it done pretty quickly. The neighbors, everybody worked great, had the vehicles out of the way. Learned a few lessons on when there's multiple family houses. One notice at the front door doesn't really work so great, so we're gonna try to make sure we do a little homework when we're handing out. We just walk the notices around, so I wanna make sure, so we apologize if we miss anybody, but they were happy to call us up and let us know, and we shared the information, so. It worked out good.
No, they
Getting ready
did
to
a
start
great
gutters
job.
now. Yeah, they did really nice.
I mean, they really did a great job.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of the people that has to park at the museum, and it was just completely comfortable. There was no issues.
Good.
We had many compliments, a lot of residents calling, saying how wonderful it was, so.
And I gotta say one more thing about the parking area next to the museum. I want to thank the guys. It looks absolutely great. I mean, it's been a couple of years, but they did a super job.
Yeah, well,
So thank them for us.
I sure will. We kept it closed, I guess it's a little secret, but I'll let it out. We kept it closed an extra day, so we can get all the vehicles out of there, get the sweeper in there. Just usually, there's never a time when that parking lot's empty, so we're finally able to get it empty and, go around with the sweeper out and get everything moved, so it worked
Yeah,
nice.
it looked great.
And we're just getting ready, starting to do some of the cutting, getting ready to do the gutters, and then eventually the road on Curtis Park, the north end, north of Fuller, so. That's just gonna go to the corner, excuse me, the curb, because we're waiting, there's still a 4-inch water line on that section of, the straight section of Curtis from East Main Street, so as soon as that gets swapped out, replaced, then we'll be able to get that last little section.
And for those potholes in front of the church there?
We will continue to put some Band-Aids on those.
Some biggies there.
Yes, there certainly are. Yeah. So that's it. And sewer, just the only update for that is we did last Monday or Tuesday, I received the updated PER, they call it the preliminary engineering report, so I know we're going through that now, and hopefully be able to schedule something pretty quick, a discussion. I know our engineer, he's reviewing it as well, and he had a couple big projects that we're bidding on, they had to wrap up, so I think it's later this, well, I guess it's tomorrow's Friday. That was from B&L.
They received it from B&L?
Yes, yeah, they did seeding that opening, so, and also, we're just gonna go through that and then start the discussion, I think.
Are we looking next year, Jake, at Main Street, East Main?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Heather's very happy that you gave me more to talk about, too. We did get a letter yesterday, Will shared with me. Actually, there was a community development block grant, the Monroe County Planning and Development held a public hearing in the steering committee in this room this morning as one of the requirements as far as the HUD funds that they get and then they distribute out. We did get a notification yesterday that we were going to get, I think our largest grant yet from the community development block grant program is $87,000 for the sidewalks on the north side of East Main Street. And that's basically from Phillips Road to the Harmony House. I forgot what it's called now. It was Prime, but JoJo's. Yeah, right about to that is East Main Street. So,
North side.
Not both sides, just the north side? No.
yes.
Because the south side is no picnic either.
We gotta start somewhere. They wouldn't give me enough for both sides, so.
All right. Our berries run, we always run down the south side.
I know.
Well, you'll have to change.
Well, we'll put the bike racks on the north side, then you'll be coming from that way. But yeah, so it's nice, and that's the same program that we used to put in the sidewalks we just did, and in Latham and Elm and Park Avenue last year and that, so. Those areas have come out of the low mod income map on the census map when they did the update. So we got them in just at the right time, we're eligible for funding there, and we're able to really, I think we asked for a bill to be approved tonight of the $66,000, and $60,000 came from Community Development Block Grant for those sidewalks there, so, yeah, it costs very little, I think. So that's it.
Thanks, Jake. Anything for sewer?
Nope. That was just the update on the ER there.
All right. Then I have one public notification, and that is that the serial bond interest payment on the bond obtained in 2012 for $800,000 will be made in the amount of $5,365.63 by May 15th, 2019. This bond was issued upon financing of the sewer outfall, which cost us $300,000. Street sweeper purchase, which is $180,000, but it's currently fully paid. And the milling and paving, roads, and parking lots, $320,000. So just a notification of that. Anybody have anything else for the orders? If not, then our next meeting is May 23rd, 2019. And look forward to seeing everybody at that meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Where's Will's report?
He doesn't do that alley meeting.
I did it here before.
It's once a month.
It's once a month. He's due the next meeting.
It usually does it the
Last
fourth